What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar with C-Zar Gets Crypto, and we are talking about Bitcoin, BTC USD on Coinbase using the TradingView chart here. It's been a second since I've talked about Bitcoin, and I'm sorry for that. I really should give it more attention than I do, but it's been boring. It's been very boring. What a time to talk about it when we had a very exciting 2.5% day. People are losing their minds. We had a 2.5% day. Okay, it's just like this day, so big, so erect, and it was only 6.2%. Right, Bitcoin. We're so bored. We get excited over a 6% day in Bitcoin. We get excited over a 2% day just to show how boring things are. Okay, so yes, it's exciting to a certain degree. This is one of the bigger candles we've seen. I actually went through, and it's the 5th biggest candle throughout this whole range, which is nice, including this one here. Actually, it's the fifth biggest candle. But all we have is a lower high. We do have increasing volume, which I think brings promise or begs promise. I would think that the coming days we would see more growth. We actually might get a higher high and have a higher low kind of thing going on here. If we take this, let's just see here. We take this trend line. I don't know where to go from. Maybe I should take it from these lows. Yeah, that trend line there. We're below this trend line that we found support. We've now found resistance on it. If we can get above this trend line, not only will that be a good thing, but we will also have new highs, which would kind of confirm an idea that we might be in a more temporary uptrend or a longer lasting uptrend. We might have ceased going down. I still do think that we're going to go lower than this low. I'm still believing that, contrary to some of my recent videos on altcoins where I've been calling for the lows on them already, that they're already in, I'm not so sure Bitcoin has found its low yet. It might go lower. But all that can change if we get above this trend line here and we get a new high. Because if we get a higher high and we're above that trend line, we're in ascending trend now, and we have higher highs for the first time since June. I guess since July, since this fake out. So I think that would be something. And again, if volume can continue to build too, that would be nice to see. Pair that with some other bullish things going on with altcoins and stuff like that, and the overall kind of tone of the market right now. That could mark the end of this downward move that we've been in really since, I guess technically since July, but more or less since June we've been sideways and moving down. And if we were to move down, I think that we would go somewhere around, again, these weekly closing high periods here. Everyone's talking about 20K or lower, and I'm personally not in that camp. I don't think that we go that low, but on a weekly basis, if we go here, and we could go that low, who really knows what's going to happen? We use the information that's in front of us and we give it our best guess, right? That's all this is. It's not a prophecy. But looking at it here, on a weekly closing basis, we got a nice little resistance area, hopefully as a support area now, at about $24,300. If we break that, that's okay. Those lines, they can be broken. Look, it was resistance, and we 3 different months wicked above it and still held it as resistance. So this line here, sorry, I thought I heard something, is right at about $23,150, about $1,000, a little bit more than $1,000 below this white line. So that gives us a nice little range to kind of play around in. I do think that we either go below this line. I wouldn't think that we go below this line, but I would think that somewhere in between is where we go in that area. This is a big cancellation. I don't know. That's what that symbol is, or is it a theta and omega? I forget what it's called. But anyways, lower is still in the cards. Lower is definitely still in the cards. Weekly here, weekly RSI. Looks like, at the moment, maybe we do move up for the rest of this week. Maybe even next week we have a little bit more of a bullish continuation, right? And then potentially reject this 50 area, maintain this lower ascending kind ofness in the weekly RSI, lower descendingness in the weekly RSI. And then on a daily perspective, if we get up to this overbought zone and reject it, that would be bearish as well. This kind of looks more bullish for sure. Looks a lot more constructive. You want to get above this high here, but truthfully, it's not enough just to get above that high. You need to get into the oversold zone or overbought zone. If you can do that, then we can talk, higher price action. And then back to the idea again that if we can get above this high here, we're breaking that descending trend line and starting something new, potentially marking the end of this. But again, I started the video with that, but I'm kind of ending with this more bearish notion because this has been the notion that I've had really since June. I'd say that there is a chance for this to break now and change. Sometimes Bitcoin Cash front runs Bitcoin, and it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same, but just bear with me here, okay? Right? Oh yeah, we're on the daily. That's what I need. So on the daily here, Bitcoin Cash just broke its descending trend line that it's had since June, since the same amount of time, basically, that it's been held down under. It broke above it, held it as support. It came down a little bit lower. It had a lower low even temporarily, but then it just had to move up. You've got your first higher high since June. You're bouncing off your trend line. Sounds a lot like what I was just saying about Bitcoin potentially doing. Now I'm only addressing this because I do think that it's a possibility, and I do think that Bitcoin Cash sometimes it like leads Bitcoin. Nobody wants to admit that, because Bitcoin Cash has a lot of hate, but it definitely led the markets with Litecoin in the last cycle. Everyone said Litecoin led the cycle, but Bitcoin Cash was right there next to it, and it was actually having bigger growth. And it has a higher market cap, so it's very arguable that Bitcoin Cash was leading last market. But anyways, it might be doing the same thing now. And if Bitcoin Cash broke above its descending trend line, it's just one break above it, one higher high above that, or away from that, I'm sorry. And then this takes a whole different tone, a much more bullish tone in the coming weeks to months, by the end of the year, by the beginning of next year. But at the moment, we haven't done that. This to me does look just like another lower high. There's nothing too significant. The volume is somewhat significant, but we would need more continuation. It is Friday today. This is the last day of the work week, the stock week. It's the last day of this month for traditional markets. We still have 2 more days after that for crypto, and that will be the end of this month as well. So definitely big shit going on in the next 3 days. If Bitcoin can close up above here, I think that would be significant, right? Bitcoin having an overall green month in September would throw a lot of people off. If you guys have been watching the channel, you know that we called for this, or I called for this, right? It's not the odds of Bitcoin having a green September weren't necessarily there, but of it having a neutral September where it would close below 10% in either direction, right? It was very high. And this is, even below 5% either direction. But I was calling for a slightly green September. This is a little bit more green than I was personally expecting, and it didn't go as far down as I was expecting. But this, this shouldn't surprise anybody. Here we are at the end of the month, and it's doing exactly what it has done, which is, statistically speaking, had an overall neutral September. So again, nothing in the charts just yet. We're waiting for confirmation one way or another. I do still at the moment believe that we're going to go around 24,300 to 23,200, somewhere in that range, 23,150, and then from there we can talk about going higher. Not only is that significant on a price scale, but from low to high on a fib scale, the 382 is right in that range as well. It's very common. I say this every time because it is very common to wick below your 382, come back above it, and close. You can bounce right off it as well. There's enough significance there to do that, but at this point, I think I'm just going to keep repeating myself and say more and more of the same stuff. So if you guys like the video, leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Always appreciate all the likes and subscribes. I got nothing else to say. So take care, everybody. I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.